Inselmilkom MOTORSMT illum l-erba reġa' għamel appuntament magħkom b'aktar informazzjoni dwar il-motorsport. Illum miegħi għandi 3 ġuvnotti Maltin li ikkompetu għamlu kampjonat barra minn Malta. Għandna lil Żejn Paċ, Kimi Buġejja u Ilaj Xwiereb. Tajjeb li nfakkar li mhux biss Malti huwa Ilaj imma Awċi wkoll Ilaj, ġifieri għandek naqra battikata tal-vapuri jew. Biex niġu minn Għawdex għal Malta u l-kampjonata minnieh ġewwa Sqallija. Kif kienet din is-sena?
Kienet sena ta' esperjenza u kienet sena sabiħa ħafna Sqallija u
Ġi minn Jannar bdiet u xekk, ġifieri. It-tiġrijiet kienu 7 tiġrijiet u waħda minnhom kienet tal-kampjonat Taljan, jiġifieri inti mort 7 darbit biss, kif kienet? Jew mort iktar minn darba biex tagħmel it-training?
jien mort aktar minn darba biex nagħmel it-training f'kull trakka u imbagħad rit dej fejn nidraħħa, mbagħad dej fejn naraw fuq is-setup u imbagħad tiġrija u ikelna imbagħad next week ikelna il-sibt u mbagħad il-ħadd it-tiġrija.
It-tiġrija il-qofol tagħha biex tara x'se jiġri u mhux. Kimi, l-istess bħal sħabek inti għattajt sena barra minn Malta ġej u sejjer l-iskola. Kif kienet din għalik? X'esperjenza, kif kienet l-esperjenza tiegħek?
Di kienet
Speċjali?
speċjali, jien kont wieħed mill-iżgħar drivers fil-kategorija.
Tajjeb li nsemmi li Ilaj u Żejn huma fil-GR3 over u inti fl-under. U ġifieri xorta intom tikkompetu bejnietkom fit-tim kollu. U Kimi fl-under ta' naqra iżgħar minnhom. Xi tgħidli aktar Kimi? It-tiġrijiet kellek 7 wkoll u waħda.
Kelli 7 ma mhux 7 darbit nitla.
L-istess mort ta' training.
Palilaj.
U Żejn.
Eżatt,
Bħalhom l-istess.
Eżatt.
Imma mbagħad bdejt iltaqa' ma' affarijiet differenti li l-kampjonat inti x'tista' tgħidilna dwaru?
Konna tajjeb għal-kampjonat kif bdejna.
U kemm tkunu meta tkun qegħdin issuqu?
L-ewwel
Malta.
l-ewwel tiġrija ta' Sqallija bdejna b'16. Mbagħad
U dejjem jibqgħu hemm mhux jintgħażlu
Le.
dawn. Tibqgħu hemmhekk 16 għat-tiġrija kollha.
Eżatt, imma mbagħad meta jibdew jinaqsu min ma jkollux ċans għall-kampjonat.
All right. U inti x'għamilt ġifieri?
Ġejt l-ewwel.
Ġejt iġbaħt il-kampjonat tal-GR3 over ġifieri, mhux isqallin, inti rbaħtu xek. Proset, u ġibtilna t-tazza lejn Malta b'din ir-rebħa tant sabiħa. Imma fix-xita ikolkom lil biss apposta, x'tagħmlu fix-xita xiltqajtu ma' xita naħseb u xita ta' vera, xi tgħidli?
Ix-xita trid tkun ftit aktar clean u ma tridx ittija daqqiet il-kart għax kieku jekk ittija daqqa barra. U bħala il-biss ikollna jisa fuq is-sjut ikollna jisa plastik, tkun jisa sjut imma plastik. U ġieli ikun hemm boots ma jiena tiegħi waterproof, allura ma jkollix bżonn qatt nilbes il-boots. U gloves tilbes gloves tal-plastik fuqhom.
U Kimi, xi tgħidli? Aktar.
Dawn nilbsuhom il-plastik u żarbun. Jekk ikollna sjut jew żarbun wieħed jixxarbu għal-għada bl-imxarab irridu nsuqu.
U ġifieri mhux ħaċċedi, trid ikollok is-suq, u ġifieri ara x'sagrifiċċju trid tagħmel. Imma f'din is-sena kollha, s-sagrifiċċju kollu. Kif spiċċa l-kampjonat Kimi?
L-ewwel tiġrija ir-raba' kont ġejt. It-tieni waħda
Fil-finali ma mbagħad x'ingħalaqna l-kampjonat kollu. Irbaħt xi ħaġa jew
irbaħt.
X'ġejt?
It-tieni mill-kampjonat ta' Sqallija u t-tielet minn Talaċi.
Proset, jiġifieri wkoll l-istess semmejt isem Malta u anke inti għax tgħid li intom ma għamiltux il-kampjonat Malti ma xorta kellkom il-bandiera Maltija tiġri ma'kom vera. Il-helmet hija parti minnkom, imma mhux biss, żejn, x'tilbsu aktar?
Nilbsu dik ta' ġebna li meta nduru minajra tweġġa ġembek ħafna.
Ir-ribs.
U bad bija ma tweġġaħħomx ħafna kif iddur.
Iżommok ibbilanċjat fuq is-sit. U dik taħseb talon.
Talon tilbes l-ewwel tilbes il-helmet u mbagħad tilbisha biex ok ma jqgħodx sejjerek u hekk. Għax iweġġek ok mbagħad minajra għalhekk nilbsuha dik.
Kemm jisibtu xi diffikultajiet barra minn Malta, pereżempju jien naf kienu aktar raffi kif isuqu, għax aħna il-Maltin nafuhom bej wieħed u ieħor għandna trakka waħda minnhom soqtu f'ħafna trakki. Kif iktuqu l-barranin?
Mhux bħal Malta kollha l-istess trakka, ġieli kellna ispik għamel illi trixxina mhux dejjem l-istess trekk.
U ġieli itukom minn wara u hekk forsi biex jisom jibbeżżawkom u hekk. U x'tagħmlu intom?
Iktar goffi minn ta' Malta.
Iktar goffi minn Malti.
Minn ta' Malta, ma xorta, ma jimporta xi jagħmlu l-oħrajn, jimporta fuq lilek innifsek.
U tajjeb li ngħidu wkoll li intom ma kontux mat-tim ta' Malta. Ilaj. Ma ikolkom it-timijiet tagħkom hemmhekk. Min kellek inti hemmhekk?
Jien kelli l-Bekkarija Matore, wieħed tim. Ix-xeżi li kienu jużaw kien Top Kart jew Parolin jew l-aktar Intrepid u Republic. Dawk ix-xeżi jiżu magni l-istess GR3, OK, KZ u dak.
L-istess inti kellek it-tim barrani kimi? Ma min kont it-tim barrani?
VRT Motorsport.
Kontu ħafna wkoll, ġifieri kolkom il-mechanics ukoll naħseb tagħkom hux.
Il-mechanics kienu jisimhom Ignazio u Fabio.
U kollha kienu
Taljani.
ma jagħtu każ meta tgħid dawk in-nies jagħtu każ il-go-kart tiegħek f'dak il-grupp. U tiegħek żejn.
Il-tim tiegħi kien jismu SVM Racing u go-kart ta' Unikart u l-magna li it-tip tagħha u TK.
Issa wara dan kollu, ma kontux l-istess tim ta' Malta, ma miltu ħbib ġodda naħseb vera. U kif qattu titkellmu bit-Taljan magħhom, kif irnexxielkom?
Ġieli meta nkunu hekk ma nkunux nafu kif nitkellmu, immorru fuq il-mobile Google Translate u nġibu l-answer jew ma nkunux nafu kif ngħiduha norrihomlu.
U ġieli komunikajt, pereżempju.
Jew naqbdu ngħidu xi ħaġa. Naqbdu u nivvintaw xi ħaġa u naħsbu għal tkun Taljana.
Imma xorta kontu tillanġaw.
Jew naqbdu nixtlu nelabu magħhom, aħna hekk konna nagħmlu.
U drawkom, u sena sħiħa. Jgħidu ġej il-Malti u ma kienux forsi jgħidu xi ħaġa bil-Malti huma.
Mhux bil-Malti, bl-Ingliż.
All right. Bil-Malti
Jipprova jkellimna.
All right. Jippruvaw imma u
Ħadd ma rrid jitkellem bil-Malti. Kulħadd jipprova jgħid xi ħaġa fuq l-Ingliż.
Intom tkellimtu bit-Taljan?
Dan iktar li tkellem bil-Taljan. Aħna
l-emmolaw.
Kemm intom ħelwin. Proset, ħafna xwara kollox xorta għamiltu ħbib ġodda, ġibtu l-unuri magħkom, għax wara kollox sena sħiħa ta' esperjenza tfisser unur personali għalikom li mort għattajt all-right, ġiri, flows.
U kif qal Zejn bir-rib protector, jekk ma tilbisix mhux forsi jweġġaka u tista' jekk jibuttak xi ħadd fejn dawra tista' bla rib protector tista' tibuttak toħroġ minn ġol go-kart.
All right, allura safety dawk ħafna importanti mhux il-helmets biss, ovvjament għandhom l-ingwanti u xek. Ħafna tazzi minn dawn kollha żommhom ġo xi vetrina Zejn fejn iżommhom inti? Jew traqadhom miegħek?
Jien ġol kamra tiegħi hekk sbieħ.
U tnaddafhom naħseb vera? All right. Il-go-karts kontu tħalluhom hemmhekk intom mhux iġġibuhom u toħduhom kollox tat-tim kollox.
Jien tnej go-karts għandi waħda l-barra u waħda law.
Iva, imma meta kont tqallija ma kontx tieħu tiegħek.
Le.
Kont kemm tmur inti bl-ilbies.
Eżatt.
U
Unsu, bis.
Ussu biss. U intom l-istess?
Ija, jien kiku, jien go-kart taħħom u jien ġieli nġib il-magna tijaj, jek ma tkunx tajba taħħom nuża tijaj. Jiena, aħna xtrajnija minnom stess. Mbatt zajnija għal-sana sħiħa u.
Imma xorta tħallu hemmhekk, ma kontux iġibu lura li l-pajjiż.
Ġili, u ġili la, jekk kien ikun hemm.
Aktar diffikultà mela biex toqgħodu.
Imma aħna, eżempju, jekk kien ikun hemm pereżempju xi training, imbagħad kellna t-tiġrija dik il-week, imbagħad inħallu hemm għal xejn qogħdu nġibu għax matul il-week ma jkollniex ċans għax aħna lawċin bil-ferri u ngħidlek aqas Malta qas ma jkollna matul il-week, jkollna fil-weekends.
All right. Għandkom xi ringrazzjamenti? Kimi?
Nixtieq nirringrazzja l-familja u l-VRT Motorsport u l-Michael Paċ u l-Lukas Paċ li għajnuni għal-Malta.
Zejn.
Jien ningrazzja l-Massimiliano, l-Missieri, l-Tsijuwi u l-SVM Racing.
U ilaj.
Jiena nirringrazzja l-familja kollha u t-tim kollu, kulħadd tenni fit-tim u nieżin fix-xeżi kif insuq u kollox.
Nawguralkom proset ħafna ta' dan is-suċċess ta' din is-sena li għaddejtu it-tlieta li intom. Proset żejn tal-li ġejt l-ewwel ukoll u inti t-tieni u inti xorta rbaħt għax l-ammort hemmhekk u għamilta is-sena kollha xorta għandek sodisfazzjon. Grazzi ħafna u għaffa qasira ta' riklami u nkomplu bil-programm wara. Lura fil-programm u issa naraw x'ħejjilna Marcus Harrison.
When is a Fiat not a Fiat? When it's a Ghia 1500. Now Ghia, Carrozzeria Ghia, took the Fiat 1500 and they clothed it in their bespoke bodywork, creating a beautiful coupe, but they managed to upset Fiat on the way. So my choice today is the Ghia 1500 GT. I'm joined today by Anthony Camilleri, who's very kindly brought along this beautiful Ghia coupe for us to have a look at today. Thank you, Anthony, and thanks for coming. Thanks for bringing the car.
Thank you for asking me to come.
You're more than welcome. I've always admired this. From the day you bought it, I thought this was a beautiful car. Just explain to us how you came about buying it. What was the choice? Why did you choose this car?
Basically, as you know, I have a collection of cars and more cars from the 60s, but I never had an Italian car before. So I've got a German Porsche 356 from 63, I've got an E-Type from 62, but I didn't have Italian cars. So obviously the next thing was
to fill
that gap and try and find a car from the 60s.
I had been saying, get an Italian car.
Yes,
Yeah.
obviously the 60s were the years when I was still a little boy playing with Matchbox cars. And I remember cars from that era, but I've never seen a car like this before myself. And I got to know about this car by coincidence in 2021. We were in Sicily with the old Motors Club on the annual cruise to Sicily, basically. And we met some Italian enthusiasts in Tindari. And one of the guys, Andrea Alessi, who also runs and does car rally to Lipari, came to meet us with a similar car to this. And obviously when he came with this car, everybody was going around the car, asking what type of car it was. You could see Fiat on the car, Ghia in other places. And he went on to explain that this was a car which was launched in 1962 in Torino, at the motor show in Torino. But it was only in production between 1963 and 1967. They built 846 cars. The idea was to build more cars for export, but they only managed to build 846 cars, and out of the 846, only 36 made it to the US market.
So it's a very scarce car.
It is a very rare car. Originally, when it was launched in Torino, it was launched with the name of Fiat 1500 GT Ghia.
This is what I was explaining about in my lead-in to the program today, that it's known as the Fiat 1500 Ghia, but that's not strictly true, is it?
No, because originally it was launched as the Fiat 1500 GT Ghia, but and at the time, Fiat dealers were marketing and selling the car.
Okay.
But there were some issues between Fiat and Ghia, because actually the car was coach built by Ghia and not by Fiat. What Ghia did was use the underpinnings of the Fiat 1500, so it's got the same engine as the Fiat 1500 sedan. It's got the same wheels,
Running gear,
running
gearbox,
gear, gearbox, and things like that. But all the design of the body
It was bespoke.
was done. The design of the body was by Sergio Sartorelli, and the body was coach built by Ghia at the Carrozzeria Ghia in Torino. The engine is Fiat, as I said, and it's a standard engine. The chassis is not. The chassis was completely designed for this car. The chassis was designed by a company from Milano called Gilco, which was owned by Gilberto Colombo. It is a tubular chassis. Overall, she's slightly longer than the standard Fiat Berlina, but the wheelbase is about 4 inches, 100 millimeters shorter.
Okay.
And the engine was pushed back onto the chassis by about 400 centimeters.
This is to give it a better
40
center of
centimeters,
gravity.
just to get the weight more central between both axles, and obviously that will result in better
Better
stability
handling, yes,
and
yes.
better road handling. So yes, it started as a Fiat 1500 GT Ghia and ended up as a Ghia 1500 GT. From 1964 onwards. Even the badging, originally it was badged as a Fiat,
And
then in 64 they changed it onto a Ghia 1500 GT. And this car was built in 64, but first registered in 65.
Okay. So you brought along for us today this Ghia masterpiece of style book for us to have a look through, explaining the design ethos behind the Ghia 1500.
Yes, basically in this book there are all the designs by Ghia. And here are some pictures when the car was first launched at the fair in Torino in 1962. And you can see in some of the pictures that it is still badged as the Fiat.
That's a Fiat.
Fiat 1500 GT.
yes.
That was in 62,
But was
before
this-
the name was changed.
Was this bonnet badge, the badge that we're seeing here, originally with Fiat written on there?
Originally, until 1964, from 62
Okay.
to 64, it was Fiat 1500 GT. In 64, it changed to Ghia
Just solely Ghia.
1500
Okay.
GT.
So you were telling us that you first came across one of these in Sicily, and then you made the decision, the mental decision, that you were going to find one and buy one. And I believe you got this from southern Italy, Bari or something. How did that come about?
Yes, basically, as you say, when I first saw the car, I had never seen it before, and obviously it left an impression on me. And it's an Italian car, which I didn't have, and something different
And something
to
beautiful.
the norm.
Beautiful.
So I started looking for this type of car, and I started reading about the car, and I found out about the history of the manufacturing, etc. But only a year later, in September 22, I came across an advert of a museum in Bari.
Okay.
And in the collection in the museum, there was this particular car. And I ended up contacting the owner of the museum to check whether he would sell the car. And when I first contacted him, he said, well, maybe, because the car is not just owned by myself, by the owner of the museum, but it was owned by two brothers. One of the brothers owned the museum, and the other brother wanted to use the car for rallies. In fact, in 2013, he took this particular car to a rally in Greece, to Corfu. So there was some disagreement about the future of the car between them. One guy wanted to keep the car in the museum, the other guy wanted to use the car for rallies. So at the end, they decided, okay, if we get a good offer on the car, we should sell and start afresh and go our separate ways. Basically, I was lucky in that sense that they decided to sell. I made an offer, decided to go and see the car. As I said, the car was still in the museum when I went to see it. I made an offer, they agreed on the price. I said, okay, I will take the car subject to a test drive. When the car was in the museum, it had no petrol in the tank, no battery connected to the car. So while it was still in the museum, we got a battery and poured some petrol in the carb. And luckily, it fired immediately. So that was a good sign and a good start.
Great mechanicals on these, it
So
has to be said.
simple,
But
but
great.
great. So then obviously we decided to move the car from the museum downstairs. He said, if you're sure you're going to buy the car, I will move the car down to the museum and you can test drive it in the museum grounds. He said, but if you're not interested in buying the car, don't make me take the car down.
Which is
because
fair
it's
enough.
a lot of work. So I said, no, I'm ready to buy the car if everything is okay. We took the car down from the first floor in the museum to the ground floor, put some more petrol in the tank, and did a small drive around the museum, and everything was okay. So then obviously I said, okay, I'll buy the car. Obviously we need to sort out the paperwork. And in the meantime, until the paperwork is sorted out for export, I would need you to do a complete service, change the oil, change the brake fluid, change the coolant.
Get everything done.
Basically get it
ready,
completely serviced, new oil in the diff, new oil in the gearbox, new oil in the engine, and then it's ready for a drive.
So here we have the familiar 1500 Fiat engine. What's impressive under here is there are areas where you can clearly see the construction. You have the square section chassis here, visible, the tubular side of the chassis visible here, and even when you look down into the engine bay, you can see the square section chassis as well. And that's indicative of how the whole car is built. So Anthony, thank you so much for bringing this beautiful car along for us today. It's really been a pleasure for me, I hope it has for you. Fascinating story behind it, and let us know what you think in the comments after seeing this beautiful car. For me, this has been a great day. Thank you.
Thank you
Anthony.
for the invitation.
More than welcome.
Grazzi Marcus Harrison għal dak il-filmat u hawnhekk rġajna spiċċajna MOTORSMT, il-programm li dejjem ikun ta' interessanti b'xi mod jew ieħor għalikom telespettaturi. Grazzi li Dreżjer għall-ilbis, nirringrazzja lilkom għal darb'oħra sakemm nerġgħu niltaqgħu nixtieqilkom is-saħħa.